Another risk, domestic in origin, is that the recent flattening out in housing activity could prove more protracted than currently expected, rather than resuming its earlier pace of recovery.
It was Fed Chair Janet Yellen saying the housing market is still a problem. So here's the question. Can we have a robust economic expansion if housing doesn't get its mojo back? And a quick reminder on this, since World War II, such a thing has never happened. Well, we've got PineBridge Investments Managing Director Michael Kelly joining us now to explain, making his debut on the News Hub. Thank you very much for being here, sir.
Thank you, Simon.
Housing, just to recap, and I mention this every time, since World War II, housing has been an integral part of robust recoveries. Mm-hmm. We haven't had a robust recovery, and guess what? Housing wasn't involved. Can it be done? Is it possible?
Well, Warren Buffett calls housing the great job multiplier, so your question is very well reasoned. Although, you know, what Janet Yellen is saying, and she's worried about, is interest rates spiked in the back half of last year, and we're seeing the result of it now into the spring. If I, were sort of young and not a homeowner, I'd actually use this as the last greatest chance. Last summer was really a generational, once-in-a-generation chance to buy a home, but this may be the next gig. So I think housing will recover, but not in the first half of this year.
Not in the first half of this year. Now, the things I looked at that saw housing do very well in the late 90s and the 2000s up to the crash were rising number of jobs, rising incomes, loosening credit standards, and falling interest rates. None of that's happening now.
Mm-hmm. But we do have an echo baby boom of age, and it could and should happen. So it's not happening now. That's why the opportunity exists now. For those really looking ahead 10, 20 years and saying this could be a great time to do that. It will be slow. What we saw was the financial institutions really run out and buy housing last summer.
Yeah.
So the buy of the generation went to financial institutions. But again, as a homeowner, as a prospective homeowner, I would look to that as a good signal that maybe now's my second chance and maybe I should act.
Make it a second. So we all get second chance. It's America, of course. You get a second chance.
You get
and many second chances,
many
in
second
fact.
Chances.
Let's look overseas now. While the Fed is getting out of its money printing business, the so-called quantitative easing, other countries are saying, okay, well, maybe we need to juice up the economy a bit. How is that going to affect investments?
Well, it's very, very important. We're saying that this is a transitional year for U.S. markets because just as the economy starts getting back on its feet, and housing's a little slow, but it will get back on its feet, just as that's happening, the Fed's taking away the punch bowl. So it'll be a standoff type of year for markets in the U.S. But outside the U.S., you still have all that on the come. You have all that on the come in Japan. You have all that in the come in Europe. It's a little too early for emerging markets. So we think it's a transitional year from U.S. leadership in financial markets to that leadership moving to Europe and Japan, and then maybe next year the emerging markets.
Okay, and talking of emerging markets, or some might say submerging, Ukraine is not looking like a pretty picture. How does that affect investments? Clearly there are energy pipelines there. It's a vital place for the grain markets, corn and wheat, and it's strategically located. Is this like a wrench in the works?
Well, it affects confidence, clearly, and you see that reflected in tremendous volatility, but will Putin actually want to annex states which he would have to financially support? We really don't think so in the heart of it. He wants to disrupt the election, which is only weeks away, not the referendum, the election. And then we think things can settle down. So we would actually stay focused on the bigger picture. This is a regional conflict. It will not become systemic.
So you don't think the separatist vote is going to be a problem then? You don't think that happening is going to cause even more violence? Because that's what we see on the pictures. We see, we see bombs and we see smoke and we see bullet sounds.
And it's tragic. We've had a lot of tragic regional conflict that has not become systemic, and it has not affected the global markets.
Okay.
And we believe this will remain one of those.
Well, thank you very much, Michael Kelly of PineBridge Investments.